What is up, guys? Welcome back. Kellen here with Droid Life, putting together our 25 plus tips and tricks for the LG G3, something we do with all flagships, and by all means, this is quite the flagship. So the first thing we want to talk about as we whip through these as quickly as possible is Knock On, which essentially allows you to double tap twice on your display to wake it up, and double tap again to turn it off if you'd like. It's one of those features I think every device should have. Once you start using it, you will love it more than you probably realize. So double tap gets you into your lock screen with clock and maybe to check notifications. You could even unlock your device, check some other things, double tap again, and it will turn that thing right off. Again, it seems like such a simple feature, but it is amazing. So you can do this with your device laying down or in hand, whichever you want, actually. And thanks to that Knock On, there is a button arrangement on the back that you probably won't need to use all that often. But should you use it, there are some shortcuts built into it, like, say, the camera. If you long press on volume down for a couple of seconds, this will quickly launch into the camera. You'll feel a little vibrate, and there you go. And you can tap anywhere then and take a quick picture. Tap that to sleep. And the volume up does something as well. If you long press on that, it launches into Quick Memo. So if you want to get into Quick Memo, write yourself a quick note without thinking about it. That's essentially how you would do that. Let's jump in here, though, and show you quickly if you want to change the settings look on your device. Since it comes in this sort of odd panel layout, you can actually do that by just hitting the little menu up top and switch to list view, and that will get you into a much more traditional sort of Android settings layout. This is just my preference, but if you want to use that paginated look, feel free to do that as well. All right, let's jump into lock screen, though, while we're here. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can be done on this lock screen. For example, the swipe effect. So you've got 4 options in here: light, particle, vector, mosaic, and soda. I've been using mosaic, so I'll show you that quickly. If we double tap to lock, double tap, see I get this sort of pixelated mosaic effect, which is kind of cool, but you do have other options. So if we jump back in there, go to, like, say, vector circle, I'll just show you quickly what this looks like. See, as I'm swiping, you get sort of this really cool effect here. So you've got a couple options in there to really get some stuff going on. If we go back into lock screen, though, this is where you would change the lock screen wallpaper so that you can specify one that's different than the home screen. This is also where you would activate lock screen widgets, though in Android L, those appear to be going away. You would also change your lock screen shortcuts in here. So you can see I've got phone, Hangouts, Chrome, Foursquare, and camera in there, but I could put something like, say, Android Wear on there, and you probably won't need to use that as a lock screen shortcut, but you could. And as long as you hit save and go back to your lock screen, you can see that change is made. And to jump into any of these apps, essentially what you do is put your finger on them and then swipe up, and it will launch right into those. You can see that worked here with the camera. So if we jump back into those lock screen settings, though, there's one other thing I want to show you, which is the actual lock mechanism. So I typically use just a swipe to unlock, but LG does this thing they call knock code, which allows you to put in sort of a pattern of taps that will unlock your device. So it essentially sets your lock screen into 4 quadrants that will accept taps. So I'll just do 1, 2, 1, 1, and we'll do that again, 1, 2, 1, 1. And you can also set a pin in case you happen to forget that. So let's just do something simple like 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so now that that's been set up, we'll go back to the lock screen and show you what I mean by this quadrant thing. So if I double tap to wake, you can see I've just got this big box. Now if I do my 1, 2, 1, 1, should unlock. Sure enough, it did. Where this gets really cool, though, is when you don't even turn your screen on. So I just go 1, 2, 1, 1, it actually unlocks. You don't actually have to wake your device. You can just do your sort of pattern tap there, and it will actually work, which is kind of cool. So let's jump into some home screen stuff now. In terms of home screen, you got sort of your traditional thing. You can pinch to zoom and look at an overview. You can add home screens here. You can actually tap on the little home icon to change default. None of this stuff's really changed. It's kind of been traditional Android stuff for quite some time. Just want to make sure you all know how to use it. You can also delete entire pages this way as well. And so yeah, if you long press, then rather than pinch to zoom, this is where you grab shortcuts for apps. So you can just grab and drag and drop right on there. Do the same thing with widgets. Find a widget you like one of these terrible AT&T widgets, and drag and drop that on there. If you want to remove those, you just long press on them and then drag up to remove up top. Same thing with apps, same thing with widgets. And then finally, if you long press, you can also change your home screen wallpaper in here. Scroll left to right, you'll find different options for accessing different wallpapers. I did want to point out though that you can add up to 7 icons down here in the dock, and you can also actually move your launcher icon. You don't see this a lot with stock launchers, but you can actually move it all the way over to the left or right if you want. I prefer mine in the middle. One other cool thing though is if you long press on an icon, you will see this little sort of paintbrush appear, and that's actually allowing you to customize the icon. So sort of like popular third-party launchers, LG has done this for a while. They let you customize icons. You won't necessarily find your favorite icon pack listed when you tap add new, but if you do have some special icons saved into a folder in your gallery or something, you can add those if you'd like to. All right, so let's talk about Quick Memo again. So we showed you that shortcut when your phone is locked. But you can also do it by swiping up from the home screen and over to Quick Memo. And that will essentially take a screenshot of whatever you're doing and then let you draw on it. So, right, Droid Life squiggly in our nice pink color. If you want to adjust settings and stuff like that, you just tap on all these icons up top. You can adjust it to sort of a pencil style or a pen style or a paintbrush style or a marker style. You can change colors, change thicknesses of the brush, transparency of whatever you're writing. You can sort of do a lot of stuff. It's a pretty nice little note-taking feature. Again, this has been around in LG devices for a while, but we just want to make sure you know exactly how to use it. You've got an eraser. You've got options to share it immediately, or you can save it into Quick Memo or your gallery and things like that. So just a quick way to get into Quick Memo. Let's jump into notifications for a second, though. So there's some things going on in the notification shade. Let's clear these out. You'll see you've got this sort of scrollable notification quick toggle, if you will. This can be edited, so there is an edit button here. And in the edit button, this allows you to drag and drop these around to rearrange them. You can check and uncheck to add different options if you want them in there. And there's all sorts of stuff, as you can see there, like battery saver or shortcut to Quick Memo, though you don't really need that since you can swipe up from home to get that. Those are there, though. One thing I want to point out, though, is there isn't a brightness slider that can be enabled, as far as I can tell anyway. But if you do long press on the brightness shortcut, it will launch you into display settings where you can then change your brightness. And same goes for a number of these, like Bluetooth. If you long press, that will actually jump into your Bluetooth settings. You could also just tap it to turn Bluetooth on or off. Wi-Fi is the same way. You can tap it to turn Wi-Fi on or off, or long press to get into your sort of Wi-Fi settings and things like that. All right, one other thing up here to point out is this Q Slide shortcut. So if you tap on Q Slide, this is another LG special feature. Drops down a list of apps that you can essentially pop up as windows on top of whatever you're doing. So if I go with the browser, it pops up a little box that has a little mini browser in it. So I've got Droid Life up and running while I'm also in my Wi-Fi settings. So you can read along and do whatever you'd like. You can also change the transparency. So if I still want to see what I'm doing back there, I can do that just by scrolling that around. You can drag and move this around and resize it and all sorts of things. You can also have multiple apps running at a time. So let's say I need something in my file manager. I want to look at a picture or something like that. You can actually pop up a little file manager window as well, which is kind of cool. And there's navigation in there as well. But so yeah, you can close these with the little X. And there's a few apps in here that you can't necessarily customize, although you can remove and add some of LG's specific apps, which you can see here, but you won't find anything like Gmail or Hangouts or any of that stuff, which is kind of too bad. So yeah, that's Q Slide. So Quick Memo, Q Slide. There's a whole bunch of Q things going on here. Let's talk about the app switcher for a minute. The app switcher comes default out of the box in sort of a 9 card style grid, but you actually change the layout just by pinching and zooming. So if you slowly pinch out, you'll get to a quad layout, and you can swipe things away just like you normally would. If you keep pinching, though, you'll get into sort of this vertically scrolling recently used apps sort of app switcher menu, and you can swipe things away in there as well. So, take some time to find a layout that works for you, but it's nice that they've sort of allowed you to customize that. So next, let's talk about the navigation buttons. So we do have on-screen navigation buttons. A long press on the app switcher will actually get you into settings if you want. Let's go to display, then home touch buttons, since they're calling them home touch buttons. In here, though, in button combination, you can actually rearrange your home buttons. You can see they're doing that on the fly down below. So I move my home button over. I tend to like the traditional layout, though. But there are shortcuts for things like your notification pull down or quick memo or queue slide, which we already showed you, or dual window, which is another app we'll talk about in a second. But you can see now if I press this drop down notification, it drops it down without ever having to reach up to grab it with my finger. And then of course queue slide as well will give you shortcuts to your queue slide apps if you don't want to have to access those through the notification window. And you can drag and drop those and add up to 5. You can also change the color of your navigation area. So I'm using white, but you could switch that to black if you'd like. You can also do this thing where in specific apps tell the navigation bar to hide. So for example, like say the Android Wear app, if I check the box for there and then go into Android Wear, you will see the navigation bar is now hidden. To access that, just a quick swipe up from around the LG logo and that gets you right in there. So it doesn't do this on all apps, just only the ones you specify. So like if I go back into Chrome, you'll notice it's still there and it's not hidden and I can't hide it unless I go in and check that box. So let's go ahead and talk about dual window, which is 2 apps running simultaneously on top of one another. You can access it with a long press on the back button or hitting the app switcher and then dual window, and that will launch you into there as well. So to run this, you just grab the apps you want to use, drag them into the separate sides, and now you have 2 apps running next to each other. You guys have seen this. Samsung's been doing this for quite a while. You can grab this blue button to resize on the fly, or tap it to get back into that app switcher, or to flip-flop the windows. You can also maximize one, resize it, and then of course there's a button that will allow you to hit the X. And then you could long press again on back and that will launch you right back into that. And you can even hit recent, which will launch the last setup you had in there in case you for some reason had to get out of it. Again, you guys have seen this before. These are fully working windows. You can see I'm in Chrome here and now I'm in YouTube. It's kind of a neat little feature that a lot of you I know will take advantage of. LG's implementation isn't the best, but it does work in case you ever want to use it. You can see the apps are a little limited. You can't use every single app, but there are some for you to play with. All right, so let's talk about one-handed operation. This is a big device. Reaching that notification area can be quite difficult. There are some things you can do to make just overall use of the device easier, and that's through one-handed operation. So things like the keyboard and dial pad and lock screen can be tweaked so that you can use it better with one hand. So I've got keyboard and dial pad checked, not necessarily lock screen. So I'll show you those. If we just jump into a text box here, if I have the device in my right hand and that box was checked, all I do is a little swipe to the right and it actually drags the keyboard over to me. And it's a fully working keyboard. You can actually swipe type, by gesture typing, dragging around. So I typed out Droid Life. Let's say I were to switch this over to my left hand. All I'd have to do is do a quick swipe, and now it's on my left. So I could do the same thing over here. And then if I want to double tap in there or swipe that back to the middle to get the full keyboard, I can. Same deal here with the dialer. I've got it in my left hand here, so the dialer's on my left side. Switch it to my right, tap the arrow, and it brings that over to my right side. So again, it's really handy since this is quite the big device. They're making it easier to use with one hand. In the camera, I just want to talk quickly about a couple of settings in here. So out of the box, at least for me, I had this ultra minimal camera, which essentially allows you to tap on the screen. It will then focus and take a picture and pop up there in the corner as the recent picture taken. Just to prove that, let me put my hand under here so you can see. So snap picture and there's my hand. This is the ultra minimal version. Now, if you tap on the little menu icon up here, this actually brings back your traditional camera layout with your flash controls and your shutter button and your video button and settings button and mode and all of that stuff. So again, tap menu, you've got ultra minimal, tap menu again, and you get sort of that traditional layout. And you can actually tap around to focus and then use your shutter button. So it's not quite as tap and focus and snap all at once. Although I kind of prefer this minimal layout just because it makes it easier to take pictures as quickly as you possibly can. All right, in the gallery, just wanted to show you one little thing. This is the default gallery, not the Photos app. You have a sort of box layout, but you can actually pinch and zoom in here, and that will give you a closer look at things. So say I'm in screenshots and I don't necessarily want to view all of my screenshots. I can pinch and zoom a couple of times and actually get in there and view things a little bit closer. Kind of a handy little trick. LG's done this throughout the UI, like we already showed you in the app switcher. So feel free to pinch to zoom everything if you want. And finally, if someone were to call you and you were in the middle of something, like say Droid Life in Chrome and reading the latest there, and the call were to come in, it actually won't interrupt what you're doing. You can actually be scrolling around in here, and a little pop-up will just drop down from the top, and it'll show you who's calling, allow you to answer or decline. And once you decide to, tap a button and you are right in the call. And then say you were to end that call, you tap end, and it brings you right back to what you were last doing. So handy little trick. And that's about it. That's at least 25 tips and tricks for your brand new LG G3. Hopefully that helps you use your device much better. For now, we are Droid Life. We're out. Peace.